Good afternoon, my name is Thomas Quinn, and I'm a captain with the Columbia Southern Fire Department, and I'm here today to talk about two standard operating procedures that have recently been published by our department, and maybe put to bed some questions or concerns that people have about these standard operating procedures. So, we have two different standard operating procedures. The one first is going to be social media, our social media guidance, and then the other one's going to be reference to Family Medical Leave Act. So we'll first touch base on the social media guidance. This policy shall apply to all members of the Columbia Southern Fire Department who engage in sharing of information via the internet and or any type of associated social networking platforms or sites. So this doesn't mean that, I can go on Instagram and only get away with it on Instagram. It's only meant to Facebook. This is across the board, any kind of social media. So the scope of this policy is to provide a guidance to all personnel clarifying boundaries between appropriate and inappropriate use of social media, mass communications, and or any current or future networking means by the Columbia Southern Fire Department personnel. So this is going to cover us that if there was to be another platform to come up, that we're covered for the future. So we're not going to have to keep on rewriting this policy, and you guys are going to have to keep on dealing with updates of the policy. This is referencing just across the board of all social media platforms, whether we have it's in play today or it's going to be in play tomorrow. I want to assure everybody that nothing in this policy is intended to restrict any member's right to discuss as a private citizen or discuss means of amongst your coworkers. Again, we're not trying to restrict people's stuff. We're just trying to limit it when it's being held on duty and you're representing the fire department. We're also asking that all members affirm to the obligation to avoid being perceived as a spokesperson for the Columbia Southern Fire Department. When you're wearing this uniform, you're portraying what the fire department is. And by maybe making a comment, the public might perceive that as that's the fire department stance. And that's something that we want to try to limit. We want to be neutral in the matter and handle our job accordingly. So let's talk about different sides of that. Separation of official representation. We need to make sure that you're separating yourself. So there should be nothing inside your posts about the fire department and or this agency or wearing a uniform inside those. By wearing a uniform, an on-duty uniform, you can perceive yourself as a member of this organization. Somebody could take that as that's you referring to a certain political agenda or maybe a political advertisement, and that the department's representing that. Again, we want to try to reform ourselves from being a spokesperson. Members are also going to be prohibited from publicly discussing any Columbia Southern Fire Department matters that are not of public concern. It was once said that public information is not public records. And what I mean by that is that just because it's a public record, it doesn't mean that it's public information. At the point it becomes requested to be public information, then it can be put outside there. But that comes out from the official documentation of this agency. The other thing I want to stress is that members shouldn't be engaged in social media while at working events. We all know about the Polk County firefighter in recent news that had made a post prior to entering a structure. Unfortunately, somebody had passed away inside that fire. And we're not here to talk about if it made a difference or if it didn't make a difference. But the perception to the public was that they weren't doing the job and they were taking social media posts to get likes. So it's something we want to try to refrain from. Members engaging in social media or social networking activities are encouraged to maintain a high level of professionalism on and off duty. Guys and girls, we know we're looked at and we know we're scrutinized. We know that the second they hear that a firefighter did something, we're going to be looking to do that. We're also paid to be professionals, and we're paid quite well to be professionals. So we need to make sure that we're always maintaining that professionalism because we're always being watched. In reference to social media, one of the other things I want to talk about is members are are prohibited from using our patches and using our displays and our events. They can't take the logos and put it on their own agendas. That's something that has to come through the official office and a request made through the fire chief, and it should be done so far with the proper channels. Because again, we want a one voice coming from the agency, not numerous voices coming from the agency. So a big one we're going to discuss is members shall not engage in recording, capturing use of imagery, videos, or photos that are using the fire department facilities. This is something that maybe a few of you are going to kind of get upset about, but unfortunately, when we're on our training grounds, we're on our facilities, we're wearing our uniforms, identifying apparatus, we have to have a strict policy on that. Again, we want one voice of messaging out there to the public, and that's how we're going to be able to control that. A member shall not endorse of any commercial product, services, or political or non-political entities while on duty, while wearing your uniform. This could go for off-duty too. When you're leaving in the morning and you want to go fly a flag for said politician, you need to remove your uniform, the duty uniform in which we provide. You can wear your off-duty uniforms, you can wear support shirts, but when we're representing this is a governmental uniform. This is a representation of the agency. The International Firefighters Association has some great social media practices. I want you to take responsibility for what you post. If you have to think twice before posting it, it's probably not a good idea to post it. Avoid posting abusive, insubordinate, or derogatory remarks towards people. It's hard. I understand you want to be heard. I understand you want to be able to say your side of the story, but sometimes you need to take a step back and just let things play out. Avoid posting anything that puts you under scrutiny by your employer. Again, if you're thinking twice before posting it, you probably shouldn't hit the post button. Use best common sense when posting online. Even though you hit delete, it still can be captured and it still can be found. So delete doesn't necessarily remove it. And be mindful of where you use social media and how you use social media. So I know firemen like to hear case studies, and you know, like we can sit here and drill this down and talk about stuff. But I'm going to bring up a recent event. A fire lieutenant who was the president of the Illinois Fire Company #1 had to step down from his position after posting a Facebook comment under a picture of a young female protester holding a sign that said "F the police." Peters was one of hundreds to post, which some deem racially and sexually insulting. But guess what? They found out he was a firefighter. The comment that I made, this is his quote, in response to the Facebook post, another Leoni resident, was clearly not acceptable. Even though other people had posted, they found out that he was a firefighter, and were put to a higher level of standard. Guys, we go inside people's homes, and when we go inside those homes, we take their wallets from them. They hand over their wallets, they hand over their keys, they even hand over their babies sometimes. It's a lot of responsibility that we hold on our shoulders. There was a study done years ago that I remember when I was coming up through the ranks that said the number two person a person trusts is a firefighter. Over cousins, aunts, uncles, doctors, lawyers, anybody else, number two was a firefighter. Number one was the family. So let's let that sit in for a second. Here in the state of Florida, a Brevard firefighter was fired for making a post of an inappropriate Halloween costume. So it doesn't have to be in reference to a political or your own thing. It could be a reference to a Halloween costume in which you're wearing. I encourage all the firefighters to go look up anything online by just referencing this and educate yourself on how this has affected the fire service. The next one we're going to touch base on is the Family Medical Leave Act. So this policy shall apply to all employees with the Columbia Southern Fire Department wishing to request up to 12 weeks of Family Medical Leave Act. FMLA is designed to assist the firefighter employee with a balance of work and family obligations with illnesses. The FMLA acts as a reasonable amount of leave for certain medical and family reasons. The FMLA is a great benefit that we have. It's actually federal law that a lot of agencies have. Our city allows us to use our sick and vacation time prior to taking the leave off without pay. But if you don't have enough sick and leave vacation time, you will be able to use up to 12 weeks. So the Family Medical Leave Act provides employees 12 weeks of unpaid or paid job protected leave per year. The FMLA also requires health benefits to be maintained during the leave. Employees of the Columbia Southern Fire Department wishing to request up to 12 weeks of family medical leave should follow the following procedures, and it should be approved by the fire chief or his or her designee. So, employees are eligible up to leave for 12 months or at least 1,250 hours in the past 12 months. They don't have to be taken off consecutively. This time can be taken off, but it can't total more than 1,250 hours. So, what do we have to do? Procedures for you guys. Firefighters are eligible for leave for a few reasons. Okay, so let's hear us out on this. Medical leave for firefighters who is unable to work because of a serious health condition. Let's talk about that a little more. Maybe you've come down with something. We're in an era where COVID is really hitting people hard. We can have FMLA for that. To care for an immediate family member with a serious health condition. We all have families. We're all in this agency. Our ages are quite well spread. Some of us have to take care of our aging parents. Some of us have to take care of our aging significant others. This is there. Placement of firefighters of a child for adoption or foster care. So if you're looking at adoption or into foster care, you can be taken off just as much as the next one, which is the birth or care of a newborn child for the firefighter. This doesn't pertain to just females. This also pertains to male firefighters. I myself was once a recipient of the FMLA when my son was born back in 2010. So, the required notice. A firefighter should be required to give up to 30 days notice to the fire chief prior to leave beginning. Especially in the case of where it's a birth of a child or something like that, we're going to pretty much know when we're going to be taking off in and around that time. In the case where leave's unforeseen, the firefighter must give the fire chief notice as soon as possible, or 2 days notice should be taken care of. So as soon as you know something's going to be going on, send an email to the fire chief or his or her designee, get the process going so we can start going on that. So some of you might ask, well, how are we going to prove this, right? Firefighters take the path of least resistance. We're going to have people going out there trying to take off all the time. Well, in the case of a serious health condition, there's a few things that we're going to have to require. The date in which a serious health condition began. This isn't a violation of HIPAA. This is stuff that we need to be able to do to protect us federal law. The possible duration of the condition. We understand that things can change, policies can change, your health can change, maybe for the better, maybe for the worse. We hope not for the worse. But we need to know a possible duration in which we know. The appropriate medical facts regarding the health condition. We're not asking to divulge everything, but the appropriate medical facts that would help us take care of theirs. The amount of time the firefighter will be out. That kind of goes hand in hand with the duration. If able, a written documentation that the firefighter is unable to perform his duties or her duties as a firefighter. That was something that we probably should be pertaining to. So you ask, well, what happens if it's a wife? Well, if it's a wife, maybe a husband, maybe a significant other, we're going to ask for maybe just the date in which the condition will be done, the possible duration of the condition, and we're going to need to have documentation showing that you're needed to help take care of this individual. In the case of a birth child or placed in adoption or for foster care, the firefighter shall be granted leave unless it's taken within 1 year of the birth, adoption, or placement. So you could take it up to 1 year since the birth of the child or the adoption of the child, but after that, the leave's gone. So maybe you want to take it for the 12 weeks after the birth of your child? Well, so you can be home to help around the home. That's something you can do. For that, we're just going to need a copy of the birth records or a copy of adoption records showing you inside there. We've gone over a lot of information on these standard operating procedures. I encourage all you to read up on your standard operating procedures, understand them. Feel free to go through our library at our fire stations and look up on these areas. And feel free to reach out to myself or the fire chief at any time with any questions. We'd be more than happy to answer them. I thank you all for your time, and I hope you all have a good night. Take care.